All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Hussein Mahadi, and I am the moderator for today's session on data privacy and protection. And it's the week 5 of JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship program on data protection and privacy course. And today we have three prestigious mentors.
Before,
Is
why won't you tell us, are we not for now? Is it not still our this thing, property at the end of the day?
Sorry for that disturbance. We have three mentors with us today: Mr. Samuel Ngu, Ms. Abisola Oshin, and Mr. Solomon Okedara. That will be joining us soon. We already passed the time we are supposed to start this session for today, which is by 5 p.m. This is 5:60. So I'll skip all the introduction and um, the announcements. So I've sent the flyers for our mentors to our mentees group earlier. So I believe we've all read their profile. So we just move into the main topic for today: data protection officer. Uh, we don't have Mr. Solomon on the call yet, so we'll start with both mentors down. For Ms. Abisola Oshin can go first. By giving us the overview of the topic for today, data protection officer, an introduction, a brief overview of the topic.
All right, thank you. I don't know if my colleague wants to start first. Maybe I can now just
Okay, let me
take
Samuel,
over. Yeah.
are you on the phone? Mr. Samuel is on the call, but I can't see him joining with his audio. So I don't know if he can talk. I can just see
Okay.
that his video is closed, but I can't see that his video is, he can turn on his video, his audio, or I can see that he can turn on his video, but I think he joined without audio. So
All right, that's not a problem. Just before we start, I just wanted to find out how many people are on this call, like how many people. I just want to have an idea so I know who I'm speaking with, and so that we can just take it from there. Like how many mentees are on this call?
You have 12 mentees.
Okay, you have 12 mentees. Okay. That's actually good. So I'm going to start my presentation. I'm going to share my screen, and it's just going to be a very brief presentation, really. It's not much, but I did get the questions that you were asking about. So let me just proceed to share my screen now, and then we'll take it from there. Okay. All right. Second, please. Okay, 1 second. I'm having some issues with the uploading, so I'm just trying to okay. I don't know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen now? No.
No, we can't see your screen, man.
Wow, this is so strange. My apologies. Okay, let me see. So Is that okay? This particular one is not helping me, so I'll just join from my other device, please. So I'll be joined. It'll be just two of me, or two of my accounts down the call. Apologies. Apologies if you can hear any sound from my background. Someone is having a very big party in my neighborhood, and they're really disturbing everyone. But obviously, I can't tell them that they are disturbing me because they have the right to have parties, but I have the right to also have a quiet space. So I wonder how that will work. All right, so I'm going to join from my other account now and share my screen. My sincere apologies. Let me. Yeah, I'm on my other screen. I'm on so I'm gonna do it. Yeah, fantastic.
Okay, ma. Your voice is echoing on the first
Yes,
device.
I've turned off that. I've turned off
Okay.
that
Okay.
that particular one, so it's fine.
I think.
Yes, so I think we'll proceed now. Okay. All right, so I think I've gotten a hang of it now. My sincere and deepest apologies for starting late. I really apologize. I did not realize that I was going to be. I pride myself as a tech lawyer, so I did not realize that technology was going to, mess up my presentation today. All right, so let's just get into it now. Can everyone see my screen? Yes, I believe everyone can. Hussein, can you confirm that you can see my screen, please?
Yes, ma'am. We can see your screen now.
Yes,
Okay, fantastic. Okay.
The PowerPoint presentation is on the screen now.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you very much. So I will just start
Can you hear
by.
me?
Yes, I can hear you, Hussein. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hi, Hussein. Can you hear me? Hello.
We can hear you.
Okay, sorry. It was Hussein that got. I think his contact he got frozen, so that's why. Okay. Thank you, Chika. I think Chika was one I just spoke with now. I just don't like feeling like I'm the only one on the call, so I'm going to call everyone's name that I can see. Thank you, Chika. Thank you, Chinaza. Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, Osuji. Okay, Chika actually. Chijioke. Nda. I'll say Nda because I don't know how to pronounce your name. Oinkosola, and thank you, Amina. So today we're going to talk about the Data Protection Officer compliance and enforcement. And I'd like this class to be as interactive as possible. That's why I took my time. I can also see Ezine Lucy. I want this class to be as interactive as possible, or Ezine Iwo. So I don't know, which one it is. But I mean, I would like to just pick people and just ask them questions before we start. I know we have a very short time, but let's just also make this class very interactive. So let me start with Oinkosola. Are you there? Oinkosola. Okay. If Oinkosola doesn't answer, I usually give a prize for my best student in the class. So I mean, you guys have to be very interactive. And my prize is not the last prize that I gave, my best student. So please, you guys need to be very interactive. Oyinkosala, are you there? Okay, Oyinkosala is not there. Okay, so I'll just go right into it. What is a data protection officer? Really, you've been hearing about data protection. President Tinubu signed a law in sometime. I mean, that was one of the first laws that he signed into law. Legislation that he signed into law. So really, what's it about? What's all this thing about data protection? I know that you guys have been having different sessions on data protection, so I'm not going to bore you with what data protection is and all that. But I want you to ponder on this. According to the federal government, and federal government being the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, they need about 400,000 DPOs for data protection compliance. Now, I mean, that's something you need to ponder on. But let me ask somebody, isn't it you? Can you hear me? Isn't it you hear me?
Yes.
I don't buy it. I really don't buy it. I'm not going to ask you questions that maybe you start checking your notes or something. We're just going to have an interactive class. Fantastic. So isn't it, what do you think about this? I just want to know your thoughts. What do you think about, the federal government saying that they need 400,000 DPOs for data protection compliance in Nigeria? What do you think about it, really? What are your thoughts seeing this headline? It was 2 weeks ago, and really, I mean, what do you make of it with the act and or what? Just give me a line or two on what you make of it.
I think that the federal government saying that they need 400,000 data protection officers in Nigeria, I don't think it's realistic, because I feel like the field of data protection is still novel in Nigeria, and I can't really I don't think we'll be able to get up to 400,000 data protection officers.
Are you serious? Are you sure? Are you sure?
I don't know. That's what I think.
Okay, I'm happy that you think that way. It's very good though. Because I'm kind of in that space, and I feel a lot is. I mean, I hear because of course, when you're on LinkedIn, you tailor your LinkedIn kind of tailors to people that your interests. So I feel like yes, it's still novel, but yeah, I get what what you mean by it's not realistic. But it will surprise you that according to the Nigerian Data Protection Bureau, they say that they have 500,000 companies that are registered under them. Can you hear me?
Yes. I had no idea.
They have about 500,000 companies registered under them. And I can even send you the link. I'm trying to see if I can send you the link so that, just so that you have a, where did I put it? It's interesting, very interesting. But I'm going to share that link with you, Leadership newspaper. Yeah, so, okay. Basically, they're just saying that, look, data protection is going to, really be an issue in the future. And obviously, they need people to drive this. And who are the people that will drive data protection in just the basics? They are going to be the data protection officers. And I'm sure that that's why, one of the reasons why I know that you're taking the data protection course. So I know that, they've talked to you about a lot of things about data protection. 1 second, I think I went off the sharing, but my plan was to share you that particular 1 second, please. I don't know what is wrong with my system today, or just having a mind of its own. Okay, I think. Okay. I need to stop sharing. I need to start sharing again. But I like how you said it's novel and it's not realistic. Yes. So, but the truth is that there's now, whether we like it or not, whether it seems novel or not, there's an act. The act has said something should be done. And other countries are following suit. For example, I'm sure, I mean, in your different lectures or your prior lectures, we've talked about the GDPR, we've talked about the NDPR, and, you know, different things. So I think that this has come to stay. I don't think that it is going to go anywhere. And I think that there's going to be an increasing need of DPOs in future. Maybe not as much as 400,000. Maybe if we look at what Ezine is saying about being realistic. But yes, just knowing that most organizations have DPOs, it's very, very interesting. And so I'll just go to, we've defined this section. So I'm not going to bore you on that since we're pressed for time. But one thing I would like you to know is, of course, we've looked at all these provisions of, you know, the legislation on data protection and all. I mean, you can see that it borders on a lot of laws: the Labor Act, the Child Act, National Archives Act, the NDPR, the framework, even CAMA, you know, deals with, you know, data protection. A lot of laws, official secrets, credit reporting, money laundering. I'm sure you've also seen that, you know, even the FC, Federal Consumer Protection, they're also they're also taking this issue of data protection seriously. If you've really been on the news, you know, or in the news, you know, and for example, they said that they are shutting down 18 illegal loan apps this week. And the reason why I'm talking about loan apps now, which I'll come back to at the end, because that's one of the easiest ways by which you know that maybe a data breach probably has occurred. So for example, I mean, I want you to think about it. During election, you probably got some messages from some political candidates that you don't know anything about, and started sending you messages, or maybe someone sent you a message, oh, Mr. XYZ is owing a loan, that pay him back. Or maybe you saw someone's obituary and they said that the person is owing, and the person now came back to you and said, no, it's not an obituary, it was a loan app. They said I didn't pay their money, so that's why they did that to me. So, you know, those are the examples. I mean, they're also sector specific. Yes, I talked about the consumer protection. So, I mean, who is the data protection officer? Let's just go right into it. The data protection officer is, you know, according to the GDPR, you know, I tried to do the GDPR, the NDPR, and I also tried to look at the Nigeria Data Protection Act, so that we just have an overview of pretty much everything. According to the EU data protection regulation, it says that data protection officer serves to protect of data subjects, and I'm sure you know that data subjects, who data subjects are. 1 second. Oh, it's gone back. Okay, yes. Protect the data subject can serve as a liaison between the jurisdictional data protection authorities, data subjects, and the organizations and its organization. Our own Nigeria Data Protection Act says that companies must control the data of natural persons, and there's a data protection officer. So apart from the fact that a data protection officer is what we have defined above, by law, it is provided for that you must, as a company, have a data protection officer. As a matter of, and I'm not sure if you know, you might have delved into this, but every year companies send annual returns. You know how in CAC you have your annual returns, and if you are saying, oh, there was this director, there was this shareholder, maybe this company secretary, maybe the last time it was not removed, you know, those kind of things, this director was removed. So that's an example of, you know, the kind of reporting. Of course, you are not reporting, of course, anything else to do with CAC, but you're reporting on how you process data, your data subject rights, you know, and how really pretty much you handled data of your data subjects within that year. And I'll come to that, but that's just an example of what a data protection officer, you know, pretty much does. But the important thing is that in that form, just for, and I'm giving you this example so that you don't forget really. You remember, you know that on your annual returns form, you have maybe your company secretary or whatever. In your form, they're going to ask you, who is your DPO? And that is very mandatory. I'm sure you know the concept of DPCOs, Data Protection Compliance Organization, and the Data Protection Officer. Both, are provided for. Of course, the Data Protection Compliance Organization pretty much works with the DPO just to ensure that they carry out their data protection obligations, and of course they do the audit, they conduct the audit for the data protection data protection of course, like in my own company, they submit it to the Nigerian Data Protection Commission. So, I mean, having spoken about that, I've spoken to you about the fact that by law, and a data protection officer is required. You cannot hide from it, you cannot go away from it. So maybe there's really a case that they need 400,000. I want to believe that within the next 2 years, NDPB, which is the, and I want to believe that this has been discussed, but I'll just shed more light on it. Prior to now, it was anything that had to do with data protection went under NITDA, and that was why you had NITDA in rolling out regulations such as the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation or the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation or the Nigerian implementation framework, the regulations. But obviously, there was now the act that came up, and obviously there was also a Nigerian Data Protection Bureau, which is now the Nigerian Data Protection Commission. And I'm sure that in future we're going to be hearing a lot about this commission, especially if you are going to be a DPO. If you plan to be a DPO, it's something that is a commission that you really, really need to know about. Yeah, so I talked about what a DP, the provisions that the law provides for data protection officers. Yes, and under the Act, Nigerian Data Protection Act, you can find information about the DPCOs from section 32 to section 35. So you may want to note that. Now, the DPO must have qualifications, must have data protection experience, a good understanding of NDPR, it must be able to communicate both technical and non-technical audiences well. Those are not really, really important, but basically, his duties includes advising the organization on data protection compliance, monitoring data protection practices, responding to data subjects, liaising with the Data Protection Commission. Remember, I told you about the commission, which is the primary or the regulatory body for the edit, and he must be independent, and he must also have access to relevant data and information. And it is critical, for all organizations. I think I've really pretty much talked about that, but I know I did that in accordance with the Act, but I wanted to go deeper into what a DPO is. Now, let's go practical and not textbook wise. I know that I mentioned things about the Act here, but let's just go very practical. You're a lawyer. Is everybody here a lawyer?
I'm not sure is everybody.
I hope I'm not talking to myself. Sorry?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, at least I'm speaking to lawyers here, I'm sure. So I want to believe that almost everybody here is a lawyer. The reason why I wanted to say that was because one second. Oops, sorry. Okay, my laptop is messing up again. Let me turn off the screen so that yeah. So like I said, we're going practical now. So you're a lawyer, or even if you're not a lawyer, you just have some expertise in data protection. And you, hello, okay, yeah. You get into an organization, and this is what happens in most cases. I'm not going to. You probably may not see a company saying they want to appoint a DPO. What usually happens in companies that I know, and that's why I said I would like to be practical with you, is that someone probably in the IT department or someone probably in the legal department is the person that they make a DPO in most cases. And like I said, they play a huge role in compliance and enforcement of data protection laws. Now, for example, you are now the data protection officer. If you do not file your audit reports, I think it's in March. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be March, 15th March or so. And I know that this year there were extensions. But if you do not file your audit reports, your company can be penalized. So you play a huge role in the compliance and enforcement of data protection laws. For example, if there's a breach in your organization, a data breach in your organization, I mean, a lot lies on the data protection of the Hussein, please let me know when I need to stop so that I can round up.
Okay, ma. You have 10 minutes more. So
okay, I just wanted to know how long I had. Yes, and so they play a huge role in compliance and enforcement of data protection laws. I think I mentioned this before. They advise the organization on their obligations under GDPR. Okay, yeah, GDPR. Apologies that I didn't mention the Nigerian Data Protection Act. A lot of us are still trying to get used to this. The Nigerian Data Protection Act, Nigerian Data Protection Plan. So let's say you're working in, let me give you an example, in a company called Soko Loan that was fined some years ago. And you know that this is your company, they're a loan company, and they are always breaching people's data. They go ahead and they'll say that, good afternoon, Mr. XYZ is owing us money, blah, 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 blah. You are supposed to tell them that, excuse me, Mr. Debt collector, this thing is not supposed to be so because the law prohibits it. They're supposed to monitor compliance and raise awareness and even training. I'm a data protection officer in my office, and like this year I've conducted a training. I'm going to conduct another training. At least best practice is that you should have at least 1 or 2 sessions of data protection awareness in your organization, conducting data protection impact assessments, and cooperating with supervisory authorities. Now, there are some times when there are some things you need to do. For example, okay, let's say you work for a tech company and they want to, they are doling out this wonderful app that can make heaven fall down, and can make technology easier, that can transfer technology, from within seconds, from one place to another. You know how all these tech guys behave. And you are the data protection officer in that organization. You're supposed to tell them that, excuse me, sir, this app that you're doing, that you have, and the data you're going to be collecting from people, are you sure that there's going to be, it's not going to have any adverse effects? Are you sure that it's not going to get us penalized? Are you sure that people's rights, data subject rights, are not going to be breached? And this is why you have what they call a data protection impact assessment. That's the easiest way I can explain it. So basically, you are the data protection officer, you're supposed to come out and say, you know what, we need to have a data protection impact assessment. And once we do that and you have it, you know that at least there's some comfort. And let me tell you another thing. A data protection officer is responsible for, I told you that, audits, sometimes organizations, like regulators, they can come and audit your organization. And that is what we are seeing now. Regulators are coming. So for example, if you work for a tech company or a fintech company, a CBN may want to come and audit you. And they can start asking, did you do your data protection audit? Okay, you have this app. When you did this app, did you have a data protection impact assessment? I mean, it will not be very good. It will be one of those exceptions against you. And, hopefully, you don't get penalized for stuff like that, for not having it. But usually the observations and exceptions that they tell you that you should, they usually warn you and say, okay, even though you didn't have a data protection impact assessment, you should do it this year so that by the time we come back next year, we know that, it's already done. Now, one other important thing is that as the DPO of the organization, you have to be free from any conflict of interest. Yes, I understand these people are your colleagues and all, but like I gave you the example of the data protection, maybe it's the finance officer in the company, the CFO in the company, like saying, you know what, debt collector, call these people. I need money. I need to make our money back. I need to pay salary. I need to do this. You shouldn't have the conflict of interest and say, because they need to, to pay me my salary. Really, I don't need to, because they need to pay my salary, I don't need to, 1 second. Because they need to pay my salary, I don't need to tell the CFO anything. They should just go ahead and conduct, and breach people's data and start calling them. And of course, they are the link between the data controllers and data protection, compliance authorities, officers, and of course the authorities. They are the data protection champions in the organization. And when I mean data protection, please 1 second, please. I'm having some internet disruption, just 1 second.
Hello, Ma. Are you still on the call?
Yes, sorry, I was trying to switch over my internet. So it was a bit shaky here. So, like I said, the data protection officer is kind of like a liaison officer, for the Data Protection Commission, the data compliance organization. Basically, he's the middleman there. And like I said, he's the champion of data protection in the organization. He does trainings. He's one always telling people that, you can't do this, is a breach. And obviously, you remember I talked about, let's talk about the Sokolon situation. This is a hypothetical situation. I didn't say that that's what Sokolon did, but I said, okay, the CFO is saying, collect whatever way you want, collect my money back. And this guy is already saying, this is what I have to do. The CFO has told me, but you are the data protection officer. You need to tell them that this is not possible. And once you realize that there has been a breach, it is your duty to report this breach. It is your duty to report this breach to the Data Protection, Commission. And I mean, there's been a situation whereby a company that provides services for my organization, they had a data breach, and they just said that report of data breach. They just notified us because we're the data subjects. They had our own data, and of course, you need to be accountable for the record of processing activities. Yes, so one of the things that the DPO you have to be doing is that you have to record processing activities in your organization. I don't want to delve too much on processing activities. I know that you've already talked on data controller, data processor, and all, so I'm not going to dwell too much on that. I think I'm not okay. So how do you appoint a DPO? I've already said so that's fine. And of course, there's a fine. So if you don't as a DPO, it's going to have adverse effects on you, on your organization. And I mean, once your organization starts saying that this our DPO CEO or our DPO, she's always allowing us to get fines, they're not going to have confidence in your work. They're going to say that we need to change this our DPO and get someone that is more competent. So in a nutshell, I have been able to just delve a little on an overview of the protection officer, but I noted some of the questions that were asked, which is one, in cases where an organization operates in multiple countries, does each location require a separate? Sorry? Hi, Hussein. I'm not answering the questions now. I'm just
if you can hold on.
Okay. Well, I was just running through
Yeah.
the questions. So after this question, I'm going to hand over to you. You know, do they need to have a separate DPO, or is it centralized? Handling data subject rights and trainings, you know, to have to become a DPO, you know, those things we'll be discussing later. But let me allow Hussein to take over from here, and then we'll continue. Thank you. So Hussein, you can go on.
All right, thank you very much, Ma. I think I've joined the call, so I'm calling on Mr. Sam the topic. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Samuel.
Thank you, Hussein. I don't know if I can be seen. Can you see me?
Sir, we can
you see me?
Sir, we can't see you. No, we can't see you, but I think we can hear you.
Okay. So let me not just waste time about it. So I joined the meeting halfway. I was actually trying to join, but I realized that the link that was sent to me is that of account drafting. So because of it, I didn't follow the presentation, but of course I met Miss Abisola's presentation, and she has been able to do justice to the topic. What I would just say is that prior to or under the old regime, because I won't say because the laws are still in effective. The new act didn't repeal it. So, but under the old regime, there was a sort of confusion on whether every company is mandated to appoint a DPO or certain category of companies. And this confusion arose as a result of the fact that under the NDPR says every company must designate. Then the implementation framework gave threshold, stating that companies processing sensitive data, public company, blah, 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 are the ones that are expected to appoint a DPO. Which prompted me to write an article then, Data Protection Officer Designation, what is the position of, where I argued that the implementation framework is subject to NDPR, you know, following paragraph 2 of that particular framework, which says that where it will be NDPR, the provision of NDPR should prevail. And NDPR hasn't said that every company must, then it means whether you are a public or private company, once you are processing personal information, you must, as a matter of fact, appoint data protection officer. Now, to the new regime, the Nigerian Data Protection Act, Section 32 has been able to resolve this issue by saying that company of major importance must appoint a data protection officer. There is a threshold there. From the way I see it, it's not going to be every company. However, I can't say categorically these are the type of company that will appoint a DPO. The reason being that the commission is yet to come up with factors that will enable us to determine companies of major importance. So we are still waiting for them. But pending when that decision is made, or pending when they issue a guideline to that effect, I still maintain that the position is that every company should, as a matter of fact, appoint a data protection officer. So what does that mean? Okay, so let me just add something to the position of data protection officer in a company. For me, I prefer to define data protection officer as a quasi-regulator in an organization. He's supposed to enjoy certain independence, but of course, under our new regime, the Nigerian Data Protection Act, such provision was not made. The act is silent on whether a DPO will be independent or not. And that being the case, I mean, anybody can argue that a data protection officer in Nigeria will not have such independence, and people will agree with him. And the act also went further to say that the company can decide to appoint an employee to assume that position or to outsource outside, to outsource a person outside. But the benchmark is just that the person must be versed in data protection law and should have the expertise to guide and advise company on how to comply with data protection regulation. Now, coming to conflict of interest, even under GDPR, at the earlier stage of GDPR, there was this opinion or understanding that a person who assumes the position of data protection officer should not hold any other position in the office and even outside the office. So, however, this particular opinion has been brought to rest by the decision of the Court of Justice of the European Union in XFAB. I think that case was held around February 9, where the Court of Justice of the European Union held that a DPO can actually hold another position in a company, provided that such position will not give him the opportunity to make decision on the processing activity or to determine the type of personal data that will be processed. In other words, whatever position a DPO is to hold in the company should not make him a data controller. So he shouldn't determine the means and purpose of processing activity. So once any position is holding or positions the person is holding in the company doesn't give him that opportunity, then the person is free to hold more than one position. Then every company, I think I've stated it, is meant to appoint a data protection officer, and all you just need to know, all you just need to have to be a DPO is for you to be versed in data protection law. And it doesn't matter your course of study. Someone who read English language, Yoruba language can become a data protection officer, provided you have the necessary expertise. Now, if I'm a data controller and I'm supposed to make decision on who to appoint as a data protection officer, I prefer to appoint a lawyer. The reason why I'm saying this is because data protection is 100% law, and maybe 50% or what other percent, other aspects, maybe the IT. Now, if you look at the principles of data protection, out of these 6 major principles, it's only one that speaks about security. And when you're talking about security, it's all about the control. So all other principles deals with law. So as a lawyer, being able to understand how the provisions of or what the law has said or the way the law says it should be implemented is very, very important to actually implementing it. And I will give you an example. The law says a data controller has to provide privacy notice or privacy statement to data subjects. Now, someone who doesn't have legal knowledge may not be able to interpret that particular provision very well. The law says you have to provide. So which means the controller has to take steps to provide or to make that policy available to a data subject. Now, practicalizing that particular provision means that if you are going to publish your privacy policy on your website, then it must be in a conspicuous place. You shouldn't give room for a data subject to come into your website and begin to look for your privacy policy. So once that is done, then it means you've not taken steps to provide a privacy notice to the data subject. So yeah, basically that's what I would say. I think the other speaker has been able to cover the field, and I will just wait for their questions. Maybe that will help me to elaborate more or to, yeah. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Samuel. Thank God you finally joined us today. I believe we were missing Mr. Solomon who wouldn't be joining us for today. So thank you very much to our both mentors. Very, very educative overview and introduction to the topic. We'll be calling on our mentee to make their PowerPoint presentation before we move on to question and answer. And we will also be entertaining live questions from our mentees. So our mentors are on the call, they are available, and they all love the session to be interactive. So kindly make sure you ask live questions. But before we jump to the mentees presentation, I will encourage everyone to turn on their videos for some minutes. Let's just take our usual picture time where we smile for the camera for some seconds. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Mr. Samuel, your screen is black. I don't know, maybe it's your Zoom app that is causing that. So I can
Yes,
see
I
that
think
you
it's
turned
my
on your
Zoom
video,
app.
but you
Yeah,
can't
I
see
think
it.
it's my, and I'm trying to rectify it. But then you can just go on to take the picture.
All right, thank you. And we can't see Miss Abisola. Is she on the call?
I'm on the call. I'm getting my camera on now.
All right, so we want to see you.
Okay.
the
You'll see me
picture.
now.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
thank you. I haven't told our mentees to turn off their videos yet. Kindly put your video on. I don't know if your camera is biting your face. Just turn your videos on until I say you can stop. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right. We can see you now, Ma. Thank you very much. All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So our presenter for today, it's your turn now. You can unmute yourself, share your screen, and start your presentation immediately.
Please, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Chinaza Ogu, and I'll be taking the presentation for Group 1. So our topic is Data Protection Officer, Compliance and Enforcement, role of a Data Protection Officer, and then when is a Data Protection Officer required? So who is a Data Protection Officer? Please, can everyone hear me?
Clearly.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, so who is a Data Protection Officer? So basically, Data Protection Officer is an independent data protection expert appointed by an organization to ensure that they comply with the data protection laws. So what the Data Protection Officer does for an organization is just to ensure that they comply with the data protection laws, to ensure that they don't go contrary to the provisions of the law. So what are the roles of a Data Protection Officer? 1, a Data Protection Officer appointed by a data controller has a responsibility to inform and advise an organization of its data compliance obligations, sorry. So a data protection officer just informs and advises an organization of the relevance of complying with the laid down laws and just basically the laid down laws. So he goes ahead to monitor compliance of such an organization, not just informing and advising them. He makes sure that they comply with those relevant data protection laws. So the next one is that a data protection officer acts as a contact point for the Nigeria Data Protection Commission on issues relating to data processing. So an instance where a data protection officer can act as a contact point is just, for example, where there's a breach by an organization as provided under the law, that the requirement is for such an organization that has breached, that's caused such breach to notify the NDPC, and that they should, in that notice, that one of the contents should be the name and contact of a person that would answer questions in respect to the unauthorized access. So this is where the data protection officer will come in handy. Now, the name of the data protection officer will be forwarded to the commission so as to be able to represent the organization and be able to answer questions in respect to the unauthorized access. Can everyone hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so the next role is a data protection officer ensures that all staff members adhere to data compliance. That's the staff of the organization complies with the data protection laws. So the next one is a data protection officer conducts regular audits. A data protection officer maintains all records of data processing in a company. Then a data protection officer mentors the company's data processor. So the data protection basically creates awareness in an organization. It just has a way of sensitizing this organization on the necessity of complying with the data protection laws. The next role is a data protection officer provides advice on data protection impact assessment and monitors its performance. Now, there's a requirement under the NDPA that where there's likelihood of risk on a personal data being processed by an organization, that they would have to conduct a data protection impact assessment. Now, sometimes an organization may not see the need to conduct such an assessment, but now the data protection officer steps in to advise them on the need to conduct a data protection impact assessment. So basically what the data protection officer does here is just to know when the need to conduct such assessments arises, just to tell them, to notify them, and to make them do it, and also monitor the performance of the assessment. So the next role is a data protection Hey, God. Sorry, please, I'm very sorry. Well, I didn't know people were not hearing me. Oh. Very sorry. Hello?
We can hear you
We
now.
can hear you.
Can hear you now.
I don't even know where I stopped because I kept on talking without even knowing that people were not hearing me. Please, what was the last thing you heard if you can? Hello?
I think the part where there's a likely breach, data
Yeah.
protection impact assessment. Yeah, that's where you stopped.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay. 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 Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so one of the roles is that a data protection officer provides advice on data protection impact assessments and monitors its performance. So an organization might not see the need to conduct a data protection impact assessment, but now the data protection officer has a duty to inform such an organization, to inform the organization of the necessity of that is where the need arises actually. So the data protection officer informs the organization or advises them on the necessity of conducting the data protection impact assessment. A data protection officer ensures that data is secure and up to date, ensures destruction of data is carried out properly. When to appoint a data protection officer? Can everyone hear me, please?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Clearly,
Okay. So when to appoint a data protection officer? Now, every data controller is required to designate a data protection officer for the purpose of ensuring adherence to the relevant data protection laws, data privacy instruments, and data protection directives of data controller. And this is provided under Regulation 4.1, paragraph 4 of the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation, section 32, sub 1 of the Nigerian Data Protection Act. Now, under the General Data Protection Regulation, specifically Article 37, it provides for when a data protection officer can be appointed by a data controller or processor, and they are as follows. 1, can everyone hear me, please?
we can hear you. You can continue.
Okay, where the processing is carried out by a public authority or body, except for courts acting in their judicial capacity. So every other public authority is expected to appoint a data protection officer, cites a court, except a court where it's acting in its judicial capacity. The second one is where the organization is not a public authority or body, but is aware that the nature of data being processed requires the appointment of a DPO. So this applies where the company is processing sensitive personal data. We all know what sensitive personal data is. So where another instance where an organization can appoint a data protection officer is where the organization appoints a data protection officer based on his or her professional qualities and experts' knowledge of data protection law and practices. Then where the law does not require an organization to appoint a DPO, but has decided to do so voluntarily. So in conclusion, it's necessary for an organization that controls, that collects, processes data, and stores data. It's necessary for such an organization to appoint a data protection officer to enable them comply with the relevant data protection laws and to avoid breach in the long run. Thank you for listening. Thank you, everyone.
Um, we can't hear our presenter. I don't know if she's done.
Oh my God. I'm done.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very sorry
let's
about the network glitch. Sorry.
thank you very much. Let's have our second presenter. Presenter for group 2. Are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
All right. You can unmute yourself and share your screen. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm the backup presenter for Group 2. The presenter is unavailable, so I'm presenting him instead. Our topic, Group 2's topic for week 5 is appointment of data protection officer, the penalties and fines for non-compliance. Please, I hope you all can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So to start with, why is a data protection officer required? Basically, a data protection officer is required to create and enforce a legally compliant structure for data privacy and protection. We've already seen the definition of who a data protection officer is by one of our mentors, and we've seen the relevant provisions for relevant provisions for data protection officer, both in the Nigerian Data Protection Act, the regulation, and the GDPR. So for the appointment of a data protection officer, Section 32 of the Nigerian Data Protection Act 2023 and Article 4, Sub 1, Paragraph 2 of the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation prescribes that a data controller may appoint a firm or company with expert knowledge of data protection law and practices to ensure the information of data subjects are kept private and secure. So while a data controller, who may be an organization or a company, carry on their activities and make use of the data of citizens or subjects or users, they also have to take into consideration the protection of the data of these users. And as a result, that's why the law or legislation has made provision for a data protection officer who may be an expert or who have expertise or knowledge in data protection regulations to manage the information gotten from the data subjects and ensure that they are being kept private and secure. So when we have data protection policies and data protection compliance, the intersection is data protection officer. He or she is the person who ensures that the policies aligns with what the activities of the organization does to ensure data protection compliance. So what are the qualifications of a data protection officer? There are no specific qualifications required to be a data protection officer. Like one of our mentors have said Samuel Ungu has said that you don't have to be a lawyer or a legal practitioner to be qualified to be appointed as a data protection officer. A graduate of English or Yoruba language can be appointed a data protection officer insofar as you have the requisite skill and expertise. Now, in lieu of this, the Nigerian Data Protection Act and the GDPR have laid down guidelines on how to appoint a data protection officer. That is the qualifications for a data protection officer. One of them includes an in-depth understanding of the applicable Nigerian data protection laws and practice, requisite professional expertise to undertake the responsibilities of monitoring, auditing, and reporting on data compliance of data protection policies by data controllers and processors. So if an employee, for instance, Section 32 sub 2 of the Nigerian Data Protection Act has told us that data protection officer may be an employee of the data controller in that organization. So if an employee, for instance, who has the requisite expertise or knowledge in data protection, regulations, and activities is being appointed or elevated or promoted to be the data protection officer for that particular organization, that person has the responsibility of monitoring, auditing, and reporting on the compliance of the data protection policies by the data controllers and processors. What are the guidelines for the data controller to consider in appointing a data protection officer? Please, can you all still hear me?
We clearly
Yes, we
can.
can.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So one of such guidelines include, with or without a recognized certificate or degree, the data protection officer needs to have and be able to demonstrate the relevant experience to carry out the tasks of a DPO. Another one is the data protection officer should have some insight into the company and should be able to handle technical or legal matters efficiently. Now, like one of our mentors mentioned, it's most likely a data protection officer to be appointed is most likely going to be a legal practitioner or a lawyer, because data protection and privacy is all about the laws and the regulations. And for you to be able to understand, interpret, and break down these laws, you have to have mastery of the language of the law. So if a data protection officer is appointed into that office, the person should have, or is supposed to have, insight into the company and should be able to handle technical or legal matters efficiently. The third one is the data protection officer should have communication skills and the willingness to develop professionally. The fourth one is the data controller must also prevent conflict of interest. We've seen that when Mrs. Abisola mentioned that a data protection officer should avoid conflict of interest, in that, for example, it is not advisable to appoint a head of IT or one of the managing directors as the data protection officer. They may be involved in a day-to-day decisions about how to process personal data, and this can create a conflict between decision for the company's interest against those of the data subjects. So the perfect example that was given by Mr. Abisola, where she demonstrated that if the company or the organization is demanding that is demanding for payment, right? And the data protection officer is also supposed to demand payment from the data subject or something like that. There should be avoidance of conflict of interest. The interest of the data subject should precede the interest of the data controller to ensure maximum data compliance rate. Who is to appoint a data protection officer? Article 3, sub 4, paragraph 1 of the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation stipulates that data controllers under the following categories are to appoint a data protection officer. 1, an entity that is a government organ, ministry, department, institution, or agency. 2, organizations that processes the personal data of over 10,000 data subjects per annum. Organizations that process sensitive personal data in the regular course of its business. Organizations that possess critical national information infrastructure consisting of personal data. These categories of persons are required by the regulation to appoint a data protection officer, to have an office designated as data protection officer, the data protection office in their organization. Enforcement of data regulations. Data protection officer in enforcing data protection regulations and policies serve as a contact point for data subjects and the relevant regulatory or supervisory authority, such as the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, on issues relating to data processing within the organization and report on data privacy and security breaches and negligence. While the data protection officer would have the interest of the data subject at heart, he should also consider the compliance rate of the relevant the compliance rate of the organization which he is the DPO for, and also report back to the authority or the relevant regulatory or supervisory authority where there is breaches or negligence. Organizations that are in breach of the NDPR requirements can face penalties that vary in amount depending on the number of data subjects affected. Now, where there are lapses in the level of compliance or enforcement of data regulations, organizations or companies or firms alike can face penalties. One of such is if the data breach impacted more than 10,000 data subjects, the organization can be fined up to 2% of its annual revenue or 10 million naira, whichever is greater. Now, the penalty is provided in Article 2 sub 1 of the Nigerian Data Protection Regulations and section 47 and 49 of the Nigerian Data Protection Act. Another penalty is if the data breach impacted less than 10,000 data subjects, the organization can be fined up to 1% of its annual revenue or 2 million naira, whichever is greater. Also, section 47 and 49, like I mentioned earlier, of the Nigerian Data Protection Act provides jointly that where a data controller or processor fails to comply with the act or a subsidiary legislation, they are liable to a fine of up to the following. For instance, if a data controller, that's an organization that is within the category of appointing a data protection officer, fails to do so, then the act in this particular section will now levy sanction and fine on them, and they'll be facing a penalty, one of which is the higher maximum amount in the case of a data controller or data processor of major importance. Another penalty may be standard maximum amount in the case of a data controller or data processor not of major importance, or imprisonment for a term not more than 1 year or both. A breach of the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation is also construed as a breach of the NISDA Act 2007. Any organization or entity that contravenes any of the provisions of the NDPR will be in breach and be liable to such fines, sanctions, or penalties as may be determined independently by the Commission from time to time. So in conclusion, what I've tried to explain earlier is as regards the appointment of data protection officer, the qualifications for the appointment of a data protection officer, the data controller or organizations or firms alike who are supposed to appoint a data protection officer, and also the penalties for not complying with the provisions of any of the legislations or regulations that guide data protection in Nigeria. This is the end of our presentation. Thank you very much. Please, I want to confirm, did you guys hear till the end of my presentation?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. Thank you very much, Lydian, for that wonderful presentation, and the slides are very beautiful. Although your team sent in the slides very late, so I don't know if our mentors had the group 2 slide before the call. But I'll be calling on our mentors to comment on our mentee's presentation briefly before we take our question and answer. Ms. Abisola.
All right, I wanted to say a very big job well done to the presentations that we had. I was quite impressed. I mean, you know, it's one thing for you to say you're doing a lecture, you're lecturing someone on something, and then it's another thing when they come and they bring something different. I really wanted to commend them on the time and effort they took to research. This is really, 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 I mean, it's very encouraging, and I just encourage you to keep it up. Yes, I know that I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about conflict of interest. What I meant was that there are some times that maybe your company would want to maybe take some decisions that maybe would affect, would result in a data breach, and maybe that data breach would probably be something profitable, you know, on the issue of conflict of interest, because I see that it keeps on coming up. Even Mr. Samuel, you know, also talked about it. You should just be independent minded and just to advise them that, and also tell them, of course, the consequences. But I really am, you know, very happy with the presentation. That I think you've done a good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Abisola, for the contribution and correction. I'm calling on Mr. Samuel to give his own input before we take our question. Mr. Samuel, are you with us on the call?
Please, what did you say? I didn't hear you.
Okay, I'm asking you to give us any comments or correction on the both presentation.
Okay, so they did very well. Just few things. I saw where they talked about a data protection officer being independent. And I've said it, that under our own regime, under our law, it seems the Act has dispensed with that because it's not provided. So the issue of whether a data protection officer should be independent or not cannot arise. And this is further supported by the fact that I think Section 32, either one or two, states that a company can either appoint an employee to become a data protection officer or not. You know, a company can decide to appoint an employee. So, yeah. Then secondly, I heard them saying instances where a data protection officer can be appointed. I don't think if there are such instances under our law. So the threshold is controller of major importance. And the requisite skill that a data protection officer needs is just knowing the law. I think these are just the two key things. And the regulator hasn't come up to tell us that these are the things, you know, we can use to determine controller of major importance. So that not being that being the case, we'll have to, you know, interpret that law vis-a-vis the old, what is in the NDPR, and the NDPR says every company. So for now, every company is expected to appoint a DPO until the regulator comes up with a guideline to that effect. So yeah, these are my observations. If I remember other ones, I will chip in while answering questions.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel and Miss Abisola. I posted the questions on the chat box. While I'm asking the question, please, if anyone has a question, you can raise your hand so that I'll call on you to ask your question. But I'll be taking the questions on our chat box. I'll be reading them out for our mentors to answer. Okay, the first question is for Ms. Abisola. In cases where an organization operates in multiple countries, does each location require a separate DPO, or can a centralized DPO suffice? Ms. Abisola, the first question is for you.
Thank you, Hussein. Okay, in my own opinion, a centralized DPO would not suffice. However, it also depends. Is this company a holding company and has some subsidiaries in different divisions? Yes. But if my holding company is in Nigeria, in fact, I'm actually in that situation now. That's why it's very interesting. I work in a company that, you know, is a Nigerian company, but we have branches in Cameroon, Uganda, and Ghana. And like I said, I always like to make things practical. So while my company is the holding company in Nigeria, I don't know what is happening in the Ghana space. I don't know what is happening in Ugandan space. I don't know what is happening in the Cameroonian, space. So it is always advisable for companies like that to have multiple, a DPO located in each branch of the company or subsidiary of the company, just so that they are compliant with the laws and they don't, flout any laws. In my own case, I have a case whereby Cameroon and Ghana, they always make sure that, Ghana and Uganda, they make sure they ask for some returns, and some compliance for a certain period, and you have to renew that, compliance. But in the case of Cameroon, in my own, where my company has a branch in, there's really nothing much happening with regards to data protection. Yes, people are coming up and different things. And I also feel that maybe because of even the political climate there, they don't have such, they are not open to such, not like they don't have, a structure, but they've not expressly set aside a legislation for data protection. So definitely, in my own opinion, there should be separate DPOs. It could be that those separate DPOs, they file reports to the central DPO, which is, in the holding company. That's fine. That happens in my own case. but there should be central DPOs. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Abisola. I'm asking the next question to our second mentor, Mr. Samuel. So, how does the DPO handle data subject right requests, such as access, rectification, and ensure of personal data, and erasure of personal data? Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing is every company, as a matter of fact, is supposed to have a data subject access request policy. That's the first thing a DPO is supposed to do when a DPO is appointed in the company. The essence of the policy is to guide you on how to recognize and then respond to data subject access request within the stipulated time. So when a data subject access request is activated, either right to rectification, erasure, all of it, the first thing a DPO is supposed to do is to identify the person making that, or to verify the identity of the person making that request. So the essence of doing that is to ensure that unauthorized person is not allowed access to another person's information. So once the DPO is able to ascertain that, of course, the DPO is supposed to respond, with to respond to the information that the data subject is requesting. So if it's you said such as access, so right to access is actually long. When you are making a request for access, you are in other words asking, okay, so do you have my personal information? So if you have my personal information, give it to me, let me see. So the first thing DPO is going to do if the request is directed to access is to check after verifying the identity of the person making the request, to check if the company has any information about the person. So if the company has, then the DPO is expected to send a message and also to accompany that message with a privacy notice that gives an overview of how the company processes the information. Then after that, DPO is expected to give the actual copy of the information the data subject is requesting for. So that's about data subject access request. Then for rectification, more or less, you are asking them to correct your personal information. So once they are able to verify your identity, they are expected to correct it if the data is actually incorrect. And it follows that way. Erasure is still the same thing, right to deletion. So once they are able to ascertain your identity, and then, of course, these rights are not absolute. They are going to check, they are going to consider vis-a-vis their processing activities, the lawful basis they are relying to process that information. So if they see that, of course, their legitimate interest does not override that of the data subject in that instance, they are expected to delete the information accordingly. So yeah, that's how to respond to data subject access request. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Samuel. I'm taking the next question for Ms. Abisola. Okay, what trainings will an individual take to become a DPO? And let me just match the two questions. So, what training will an individual take to become a DPO, and what are the recognized qualifying examinations to become a DPO in Nigeria?
All right, thank you very much for that statement, for that question. Okay, so this is a very funny question, and I'll tell you why it's funny. So some auditors came to my office the other day, and they were saying that, am I a certified DPCO? DPO. And I told them, certified DPO, that the only exam that I know is independent, APP, Association of Privacy Professionals. And they were saying, oh, that suffices, but there's actually a course that for a certified data protection officer. And I actually went online and I Googled DPO certification exams, and the amount of things that I saw, I was indeed very shocked. You know, I hadn't seen it before. There's one done by PECB, there's one done by the EU, GDPR Institute, you know, there's a lot. But this is what I'll say. I find that in Nigeria, we don't have, because this is just a growing area of law in Nigeria, we don't have any certification per se. However, what I find that most people are doing is that they are taking courses with IAPP, International Association of Privacy Professionals. I mean, Mr. Samuel, I think he's a certified privacy professional, certified information privacy professional under the EU. Mr. Samuel, am I correct?
Yes, yes,
exactly. Yes, yes. So I mean, for me, personally, and that's personally for me, I consider that as a very good a very good foundation for anybody that wants to further this, because even in the IAPP there are other courses. There's this certified information privacy manager. They have certified information privacy professional courses in the same institute. They have the US one, they have the Canadian one. So I mean, I think it's actually very good. I also feel that sometimes and it's not cheap, so when you see people like Mr. Samuel, you respect him very well, because he paid a lot of money, and the exam is very difficult. So it's not like maybe he just did the exam. Please, anybody that you see with JIIPCC, please give the person like a big thumbs up. It's a very good exam. It may be a bit pricey, so maybe you might not want to do that, but there are other ones. I know that there are some that they do online, yeah, but I know that I also know that Olumide Babalala is doing one now called the Privacy Academy or something, and I think that it's good because it focuses a bit on Nigerian law. So that's as far as I know, but nothing stops you from. I think if you're a lawyer, you already have that background. Mr. Samuel kept on saying that it's always good if you are a lawyer, to have that background, because data protection compliance has to do a lot with the law. If you're a lawyer, that's a very good background for you. But however, for someone that maybe studied English or anything, for him to be recognized, I would advise them to take certification courses, or even do the Privacy Academy one. But like I said, I know that the IAPP is a very good one. There are other ones that you can look up. I know PECB does one for DPCOs too. I know there's also the One Trust one, so there are different ones, but I would just advise that maybe you should focus on the IAPP. There's no one, but this is what I find that people are doing. And I would encourage people, if someone came to meet me and asked me to recommend, I would probably recommend that they should look into those ones. And of course, if you're also planning to relocate or something, if you have a CIPPE, that's a good ground for it, because most people relocate to Canada, there's already IAPP in Canada. So you can actually do a conversion, like the Canadian version of that one. If you're moving to the US, you can do the US version. And if you happen to, for example, go to Europe, fantastic. You don't need to do anything, like that. And even if you're in the UK, CIPPE, also works. For the Privacy Academy, like I said, it focuses a lot on Nigerian law. And because, like I said, it's still new, I think a lot of people will be geared towards it. And I think that it's a fantastic thing that he's doing. I saw that, my friend Olumide Babala does it, and he's brought in a lot of big minds, big and intellectual minds in it. So thank you very much. Mr. Samuel, I don't know if you have anything to say.
Yes,
because you know
I was going to call
you are
Mr.
done in this field.
To also give us his input.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
That's why I wanted him to say something.
You've said everything. So yeah, you've said everything. You mentioned CIPP, IAPP. The one you talked about from University of Maastricht is also very good. It's a very good course.
Yeah.
But it's very pricey. All of these certifications are very pricey. The one Mr. Babalola is doing is also nice. you know. So it depends on you. What I will just tell them is this: if you don't have the money, it still doesn't stop. You can just
Exactly.
go online, take
Exactly.
some courses on Coursera,
Yes.
feature learn, read articles, follow what's going on, the discussions going on LinkedIn, join webinars, go for this type of trainings. That's the only way to learn, actually. In actual sense, sometimes these certifications doesn't make you a good data protection practitioner, a good DPO. What makes you a good DPO is your zeal to learn, to read. There are so many things, so many articles, so many works on data protection, your ability to read these things, and then work under someone's mentorship is what will give you an edge or leverage. So you can check ICO websites, that's Information Commission Officer, the Data Protection Authority of UK. They have guidelines on how to comply with data protection. So if you can read all of those things or all the information there, it will be very helpful. You'll have a good understanding of data protection. Also, you can read the EDPB guidelines on data protection. It's my go-to. Whenever I want to read up something on data protection, I always go to EDPB website to read their guidelines, because the guidelines come with practical examples on how these things are done. And that's what you need to know it. So yeah, that's pretty much what I can say.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Abisola and Mr. Samuel Ungu. I don't know, I can't see anybody's hand up, so I believe our mentees are all understood everything our mentors said today, and we don't have any questions. So we've come to the end of today's session. Thanks to the presenters and the group members.
Excuse me, can I say something? Please,
Yes,
can I
ma'am.
say something? Okay, please.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry for interjecting. I wanted to say that Olumide Babalola started something this year called PrivCon, the privacy conference. And I believe that this year was the maiden edition or the inaugural edition. And next year, they would start, they'll have another one. So like Mr. Samuel said, please just be, if this is an area that you're going to be interested in, I would advise you to just keep your ears to the ground and just ensure that you attend these things. He said talk about training, so this would be a very good training. You'll find the best minds. I attended this year's one and I thought it was really good. But thank you so much, everyone. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. So we've come to the end of the session today. I wish everyone a happy weekend ahead, and bye-bye, everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel and Ms. Abisola, once again. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.